Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining Basic Drywall Finishing using automatic taping and finishing tools. This webinar is sponsored and presented by Ames Tools Corporation. My name is Anne Marie Salvatelli, Director of Education and Member Services at AWCI. Before we start, a few housekeeping items. Attendees should be on mute throughout the whole presentation. Should you have a question at any time during today's broadcast, please submit it by clicking on the question icon in the right corner of your screen. We will have a Q&A after the session. At this time, I would like to welcome our presenter, Mark Wilson. Mark is the Director of Education, also known as Captain Drywall, began his career as a professional finisher and has been part of the Ames Tool Corporation and Tape Tech Tools family for nearly 3 decades. We're going to send it off to our presenters in the studio. Welcome, Mark.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Mark Wilson. I'm the Director of Education here at Ames Tool Corporation, and I'm welcoming you to our webinar today. We're going to be talking about automatic taping and finishing tools, and we're going to walk through the process of automatic taping and finishing. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is the loading pump. The loading pump itself is necessary to fill and load all of our tools. We have a few adapters that load specific tools. This particular adapter here is called the gooseneck, and it's attached here to the pump head, okay? When we put the pump into the joint compound, the cylinder itself is just set inside of the joint compound before we pump or use it to fill the tool. This particular tool will be used to fill the automatic taper or the bazooka only. So I'm going to prime this first. And you'll see the material will come out here at the end. We just want to make sure that there's material priming through the tool before we attach the bazooka to the tool, right here. The first tool we're going to talk about for taping, and again, the processes generally are your taping, your embedding, and then your finish coating. Some people call it differently, but that's basically it. There are levels of finish. There's level 5. You might add another finish to that where you have an additional application. And then you coat the entire surface so you don't have a difference between the mud and the paper. But for our conversation today, we're going to talk about the taping, the embedding, and the finishing, and the tools that are related to that. So for taping, we've mixed the joint compound with some water, okay? Different brands require different amounts of water. A good starting place is between 16 and 18 ounces of water to start out with a 5-gallon bucket of joint compound, okay? So for taping with the bazooka, you can see the material it's not watery thin, but it has been thinned down so it will come off with a knife. It's not too heavy, but it's not too thinner. We don't want it too watery. The tool that we're going to connect, or that we first use for the taping process, is called the bazooka. If it's an Ames product, it's called bazooka. If it's Tape Tech, it's called the automatic taper. It's quite a simple tool. It has drive wheels on the end that you roll up the wall. And internally, there's a cable and a plunger that as you roll these wheels, that plunger is pulled up and the material and the tape are simultaneously applied to the wall at the same time. We do have this outer tube here. This tube is for cutting the tape and advancing the next piece for the next operation. So by pulling down, we cut the tape. There's a razor blade at the top. And by advancing the next piece for the next step. We do have a place here to hold the tape. We'll set it on the gooseneck here. And the tape holder basically is just a band holder and a spool. I'm going to be using a 250-foot roll of tape today. As you get better, this may be a good step when you're first starting a smaller roll, just for weight and for spin, to alleviate the spin from the tape, perhaps doing this, okay? If you have a 500-foot roll, as you get better and progress, it's better to use a 500-foot roll tape so you don't have to change the tape as often. When you put the tape onto the tape spool, it depends on what hand you hold this with. Hold it with your left hand. I'm going to put the tape on here. I want the tape to come out to my left. If you hold this with your right hand, which we'll show you in a minute, I would put the tape on so it spools off to the right. And it's just so that it doesn't paper cut into the top of your hand when it's folding over your hand. I'll show you that in a minute. This is just a keeper. Place it in. We want to make sure that the tape is going inside of this small bottom piece of the keeper. And then as we pull it off, insert it into the tape guide. The tape will basically fold through the tool, yes, and come off the end of the tool like so. Okay. If your tape is folding the other direction, you've got it incorrectly. You've got your tape on backwards. So make sure that it comes off the tool on the drive wheels like so. So we're going to fill the tool up. Takes about 9 full pumps, and it'll weigh about 18 pounds when it's full. Okay, it empties out as you run it, but that's your full capacity. And it goes about 80 feet when it's full before you have to return and fill it. I take my finger and set it in. That way I can tell when the plunger comes to the top. If it touches my finger, it's full. So okay, so 9 pumps were full. So take the tool off of the gooseneck, set it on our toe so we don't hit it onto the floor. Again, you have a cable inside. We want to make sure that we just don't hit it on the floor. Pretty sturdy, but to alleviate that, you just put it on your foot to take that pressure. If you have any extra tape out here, if your control tube is forward, you can just pull this tape back. I'm going to turn the tool on with the gate valve, and this little lever here will basically start the cable winding up, and it'll start to put the joint compound onto the tape. We're ready to go to the wall at this point. Step here. Now, key that we stand about an arm length away from the wall, just so we're not too close or we're not too far away from the wall. So it's about an arm length away, more or less. Basically, we just bend down, set the tool on the wall. Stop about 3 inches from the top, gently cut, roll to the top. Now you can see at the top here where it's perfect cut. That takes time to learn how to do that. And as you practice more, you'll get better at doing that. Now at this point, you can either have a crew, somebody come back and wipe out. You can take a pan and a knife or a trowel. Most of the time you need a knife and a pan because you're wiping out a lot of material here, and you want to reuse that material as opposed to throwing it. So we're just going to wipe this out. You have to wipe it pretty tight. If this tape is really hard to wipe, you might want to think about mixing your joint compound a little bit thinner. Not watery. You don't want it too thick. One little tip on this is that as we're wiping our tape, you want to make sure that you don't have any extra dry compound because we're going to run another tool over this tape. We don't want to have a scratch when we're doing that coat. And again, a lot of times people will keep continuing on with the bazooka, and the wipeout team will come behind and do the wipeout. So nice wiped out tape, nice and smooth. Move on to the next step. So we would go around the whole house and do butt joints, laterals, ceilings. We do all the joints we can first. Then we move to the internal angles or the angles. The angles are the same process. The only difference is we have a creaser wheel on this tool, and it basically is this little wheel right here, and it's manipulated with a lever at the end of the tool here. Okay, and as I run this corner, I'm actually going to run this with my right hand. It's good to learn both hands because you get in certain areas, it's easier. And I want to run this tool up the corner. Okay, so you can see it placed it right into the corner. Set this out of the way. The next tool that we would use is called a corner roller. So the corner roller itself, probably the easiest tool we got to learn how to use. It's just a series of 4 wheels, and it can be run up and down, doesn't have a direction. And what we want to do first is place this in the corner, in the middle, start in the middle, and then just roll up the corner, no pressure, okay? And then come back down the bottom side, or you can go to the bottom first with no pressure. Now we're going to put pressure on it and roll this tape out. And if you can look closely, you can see the compound came out from behind the tape. The next tool we're going to use, now I've pre-primed these tools. This is actually a corner finisher. Attaches to a handle. I will say that all of our handles are extendable to reach higher lengths. It's the beauty of using these. The corner finisher, unlike the corner roller, is directional. So if I'm going this direction, I have to basically move it this direction. If I want to turn around, I actually have to turn the tool around and go back the other direction. It does have a leading edge. You can kind of see here this little bead on the end, and that's how we'd run it. You can run it top to bottom or bottom to top. For this demo, I'm just going to go from the bottom. stick it in the corner, and then move it up the corner and wipe out the tape. If you have to go back down, you can certainly turn it around and run back down the corner to smooth out any edges. Now what it's done here, it's wiped out the tape and added a small layer of joint compound over the tape. When you hand tape, a lot of times you have to put it on, wipe it out, then come back the next day or later and run one side, let it dry, run the other side. Some people are really good, they can run both sides, but generally this tool is going to be a huge time saver because it'll wipe both sides for you at the same time. Now, we don't just leave that. We have to go back. I'm going to take I have a 6 in my pocket. You can use a 5. And we're going to detail any of these places where, we have joint compound. Okay. So you can see here, I got a little bit here, and a little bit of material. If you have any edges or any material, you can wipe it, but you wouldn't want to wipe out the whole angle. Just leave what's on there, because when it dries, it's going to dry white. Very important. So you can wipe the bottom, clean this out. I'll make sure that we don't have any things at the bottom, any extra joint compound, because you're going to have to add another coat to this corner at the last step of the process, the finishing process. So I'm going to repeat the top angle to show you how the top ceiling angle works. It takes a little practice with that as well. Sometimes if you're learning, start with the bottoms, and as you progress or you learn, you can move up to tops. So I'm going to place the tool in the corner here. Okay, so that's just an example of a short section. Now, if you're running this section here, okay, where it intersects with the joint, which is this would need to be dry first. That's why we run these first. So this would be first. The next section is layering over it. Okay, we're going to do the roller as well. Again, the easiest tool we have to learn. Just going to roll this here, go back to the edge, go back over and roll it in. And again, if we just leave it like that, some people will wipe it out. You can do that if you want, but we recommend using a corner roller and a corner finisher. It saves you a lot of time. Run the corner finisher back over this. Again, I'm going to go lightly over this because it is wet. Okay, and again, if you have to go back over it, you can run right back over that. Now you can see where this is filled in really nice, even with a little bit of a wet joint, a bit of tape there. So I'm going to just kind of wipe this out a little bit right here. Again, if I have anything like here and here, there's no reason to wipe anything here because it's all filled in. Certainly want to detail this area so that we don't have any extra compound in the way. Just wipe this out. Okay. So as that dries, it'll dry nice and white. We do have a corner here that we ran earlier, and you can see where this is dried in nice and white. This is a dry corner, similar to that one. You won't see the yellow tape. It'll dry with a nice white finish. That would be our taping process. The taping process is the first step in the process of finishing. Probably takes the longest, but you're going to save the most time by using these tools. The next step would be either the embedding, coating or covering the tape, and the fasteners. I want to show you the fastener tool. It's called the nail spotter first. Now this is a nail spotter. It's a simple tool, has a skid and a blade, and by pushing on the back plate, it pushes the material out onto a small blade and it just sweeps it right off. You apply it and it wipes it right off kind of at the same time. We have a 2-inch and a 3-inch. Typically you would use the 2 first and then the 3 for the final coat. 2 coats. If you have to add another layer, it's fine. It's a very thin coat, but for the first coat, it's the 2-inch, and then the last 2 coats, the 3-inch. Now to fill this tool, we're going to have to change our adapter for our pump and our joint compound. So for the sake of this demo, I'm just going to move this joint compound out here and replace it with material that I used earlier, I mixed earlier. Now this is pretty thick. This stuff is, this material, this joint compound has been mixed with a very little bit of water. I would say for the nail spotter, you wouldn't add any water to that. unless it's very heavy and you need to add a little bit just so it slides out of the machine. With this pump, this loading pump, we have what we call a filler adapter. So here is the filler adapter. It goes into the bucket the same way. Again, I'm going to prime this just a little bit, but it's ready to prime right now. You can feel it. So this little duct bill here is where the material will come out into the nail spotter. So we just set this here. Until you see that it's full. So you see the material at the top. This tool is attached to a handle. Tape Tech and Ames, we have the same handles. We have one handle for everything. You have different tools that attach to the same handle. This is just threaded on. It is an extendable handle, so you can reach up quite high with this. But let's go to the wall and we'll show you how easy this tool is to work. So typically we have screws or fasteners on the job site that hold the drywall panels to the substrate or the studs. And we need to treat them several times. Again, this is very easy. We place the tool on the wall, minimal pressure, you just run it down the wall until it's basically filling in just, you can see just the places where there are screws. We don't need a lot of material. Certainly we don't need anything in between here, but when you're filling that in, typically when done by hand, you put too much on and you have to sand that off. So mechanically, you're just putting on just enough. This will dry. It's already starting to dry. And after several applications, you'll have a really thin coat that'll fill in just the depression of the screws. If you're doing a ceiling, it's very easy. You can do it from the floor. You can run this very easily. And again, you can reach from the floor instead of getting up on stilts, if stilts are allowed or not allowed, benches, ladders. This is much faster, easier to do. One of the questions we get are, all the screws are sticking out? I mean, yes, if your screws are sticking out, you should go through previous and turn them in, or have a talk with the carpenter and see if he can, do a better job of screwing those in. That helps a lot. These blades are carbon steel, they're hard steel. Usually you'll hit it first with the skid, but I guess you could go through and do them by hand at first, but recommend just going through, checking them, and as you check them, turn them in with a Phillips screwdriver. Second easiest tool to learn how to use is the nail spotter. Okay, moving forward, we're going to move into the boxes. So the boxes are several different styles of boxes. I'm going to show you the 3 styles of boxes. We have 4 sizes of boxes at Ames and Tape Tech. We have a 7-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, and a 15-inch on the Tape Tech side, and that's the width. So we generally start with a smaller size box and work our way up. The most common would be the 10-inch and 12-inch combination. So for the first coat over the tape, you use a 10-inch box, and then the 12-inch box for your finish coat after that dries. Okay. The box itself is similar to the nail spotter. It has an opening, has a cavity that you hold the material in, or a vessel. Instead of a skid, it has wheels. That's 2 wheels and an axle. And this back pressure plate that you push on to have the material come out, much like the nail spotter, just bigger. Now, one big difference is you can control the amount of joint compound that comes out of this tool. There's what we call a crown dial setting. It pushes down on the blade and the brass blade holder to allow more or less compound. Typically, you want more on your first, or your embed coat, or your first coat. So as it dries, it shrinks in, you have a good base coat. Okay, you don't want to starve it on the first coat. We always recommend an air drying joint compound. I know some people use setting compounds. We don't recommend that in our tools. But if you're using an air drying compound, lower the number, usually 1 or 2 on the first coat. In one pass, it'll leave material heavy in the middle. It'll taper it off on each side and fill in the recessed drywall boards where the joints are together. If you're finishing or decorating a butt joint, which is an untapered part of the board, you would split both sides of the joint, build out the high point, because basically in the middle of a butt joint is high, build it out on both sides, and then run down the middle. And I'll kind of show you that here in a minute. Filling the tool is quite simple. It's the same as the nail spotter. We attach the duct bill, the filler adapter, into the box. You kind of look at it. We start at one side, we apply some in the middle, and then in the side, it's basically fill at that point. Okay. All of these boxes are attached to a handle. So they're called brake handles because the box pivots on the top, and we need to get to the ceiling, we need to have an angle, right? So when we start boxing, we can release the brake and move along the joint. When we stop and sweep off, we let go of the brake. Okay, I'll show you that in a minute as well. One more thing I'd like to show you to compare the other boxes would be our high capacity on the Ames side or the Max box on the Tape Tech brand. This is a wider box. It has the same axle, the same blade crown adjustment. Everything is the same. It does have a hinge here that you would pivot on because it's quite a large capacity. Other than that, it just does the same thing. It's just larger capacity. Okay, that's the second type of box that we have. I will show you a different type of box that's very nice. I can actually box this with one hand. It's called the Power Assist box. So if you look at it, same wheel, same blade, same crown adjustment, same high capacity or Max box. But where it's very different is on the back. It actually has a gear and a couple of springs that actually push on the pressure plate for you instead of you using your arm or your shoulders to push on it. It's activated by the axle. When the axle touches the wall, the material is pushed out automatically. So quite easy. We will show this. Fill it the same way. It's the same process. To do. Same handle. I will say that for handles, this is an extending handle. We do have different size handles. We have brakeless handles on the Tape Tech side. We have 34-inch, 47-inch, 54-inch, and 72-inch fixed length handles. They're thinner. You can't adjust them. They're just fixed length. And then we have brakeless handles that are adjustable and fixed length as well on the Tape Tech side, where it's like the nail spotter. You don't have a brake. It's just an adjustment at the top. Very interesting for people that are just getting into the business. Let's show you these boxes on the wall here in the demo booth. So for this box on the joint, this should be dry, and we would do this first, tape it and then let it dry. When you're boxing these joints, I like to start at the bottom. I'm going to try to do this backwards. We do have the brake on, but you're not going to use the brake while you're moving the box along the wall. So we're just going to kind of get ourselves, I get close to the wall, put the tool on the wall, and just stand up to about here, right about, a little higher than my knee. There's no sense in coming up really high because that's kind of on your body, kind of harder. Place the tool at the top, just lean into it, and then box the top down. Okay, you can see where it was tapered off on each side, nice and smooth, one pass. By hand. Again, I know a lot of good hand finishers. I learned how to hand finish. You have to put it on, you have to flatten it out, you have to feather it. You have to touch it like 4 or 5 times. And generally, you can't reach all the way to the top. You certainly can't do a ceiling like this from the floor, okay? So I can go even higher if I extended this handle. Again, it's one pass, very fast. This tool can be learned really fast. It's not a difficult tool. Maybe in a day or so, you can learn it and be proficient. If you're going to start with a tool, certainly the system's great, but this is a very good starting point because you're going to make up a lot of time really fast on using these boxes. I had to push that joint compound out. But the Power Assist, if I were to just use it next to this, I'm just going to show you basically the tool. I can put it on the wall and just move it down the wall like this, and it's automatically going on. I'm not even pushing on it. It's the tool's doing the work. Okay? The big difference is it's automatic with a cog or a gear, and the material is pushed out automatically. Really nice. Again, if you're getting into this new Power Assist, a little bit easier learning curve. This one's easy. That one's really easy. If you're doing commercial work and you've got stand-up boards all day, if you're doing ceilings, you don't have to drag your feet. It's basically doing the work for you. It's very easy to learn. Check that Power Assist out if you're interested, or let us know. I will say this on a side note. Ames and Tape Tech, myself and my team and our company, we're the only company that has a national training center here in Suwanee, Georgia. We do trainings every month. We offer it. Check out shopamestools.com and tapetech.com under the training and learning tab for more information. Or my guys come out. We have nice stocked vans. We come out to your job site. We offer different training packages or trainings that suit you. So if you're getting into the business, if you're in it, and you need some updates for your teams, let us know if we can help you. That's what we are here for. The boxing, as far as wiping, I've had a lot of people say, you're supposed to wipe out the joint. I don't wipe out the joint unless I have to. If I have to, if I get into a situation where The top part of the joint is getting into the corner. Like let's say right here, I may have to just, fill that in, but I don't as a rule wipe out the whole joint. This is little air bubbles from the wet tape, but typically it's nice and dry when the tape is dry. But I don't want to leave this big edge up here. So if I have to touch anything, it's right there or at the bottom, just to make sure I don't have anything that's going to affect the next coat, because we're going to run another coat on this, typically a 12-inch box. So you don't want to have that affected. Okay, so the boxes are the nail spotters 2 and 3 inch, and then the joint boxes are 7, 10, and 12, typically 10 inch first time, and then 12 for the final coat. The crown setting would be on 0 or 1 on this application, and typically on 3, maybe 4, but 3. And I will say another little tip, that as you're boxing these joints, it's not just down the middle. You have to learn how to read the joints. So if you see the low side, so I can actually see that this joint is a little bit low on this side, so I ride the box down the low side so it fills in the low side of the joint. Okay, just a tip. When that's done, the very last step is to do the corners, internal corners. Let's show you that. So for internal corners, we have a couple options. First, we have a corner finisher that's now 3 inches or 3.5. On Tape Tech and Ames, we have a 2, 2.5, a 3, and a 3.5 size. Generally, the 2 and the 2.5 are for the taping. They have 1 spring, so they're very flexible to leave more joint compound. And the 3 and the 3.5 are wider for the finish coat. Here I have a 3, okay? The corner applicator has been around a long time. It's kind of like a box. You have to push on the back plate, okay? The material comes out onto this cone that you would attach a corner finisher to, okay? There's a filler adjustment here that has a filling tool. Now, when we fill with the filler adapter here, we remove this duckbill and we just use the O-ring part of this adapter, okay? So we plug this in and we just pump the material into the tool, okay? That's one tool. We do have a newer tool that's called the Mud Runner. This is an Ames product. This is an Ames rental. And it basically does the same thing, okay? It has a tube at the top. You grab this compound, this corner finisher. A corner finisher, much like the corner applicator, attaches to the top, typically a 3 or 3.5. You have the filler, the same filler that we have on there. Now, this is where it starts to get a lot different. You have a straight tube that holds twice as much as that tool right there. You have a main tube here that inside contains a gas strut. The gas strut is pressured when you fill it. So as this piston is pushing down, it's pressurizing the strut. Think of the hood of your car if it has one of these gas struts on it. When it's under pressure, there's a stopper up here. To open that stopper, we just twist the handle here, right or left, doesn't matter, to open the flow or start the flow, to release the pressure, okay? Move it along the joint. To stop the flow, you just release simply and the stopper goes back up and it closes. This is our Mud Runner original model. It's an Ames rental. Recently available is the Tape Tech Mud Runner Pro. It's a newer tool. It looks similar. It has similar looks to it. The finisher attaches the same. The cylinder is the same. Inside here, it's a little different. We have a much stronger strut that's used for applying more joint compound to the corners. If you're applying joint compound to the outside corners to put on paper face bead, it also is very good with that. A big difference also is the control tube. It's much easier to twist. It's a very easy twist. It's very simple. You can adjust this length. We had people tell us that I can't get in the closet with this Mud Runner. So you can now make this shorter, the tools, or extend it to be longer. You can even extend this tool with an extension on the end, about another foot, clamps on here, so you can reach up almost to 10 feet. So let's fill this tool up. I'll show you how it works. I'm going to demonstrate the Tape Tech unit. I'm real excited about this tool. It works really well. Now, we're just going to push on this cylinder. Okay. Then I'm going to show you how, as I twist this handle, the material flows out. I can go slow, medium, or fast. To release it, just stop. Just let go of the tool. Okay? You can also see how much is in there. Kind of cool. Put the corner finisher on. Let's show you how these two tools work on the demo wall. So let's show you the corner applicator first. Actually, I want to do this corner here because it's nice and dry. Okay. With the corner applicator and the corner finisher, you always have to start at the bottom. And what I'm doing is pulling up and then pulling down, intersecting with the lap mark. So I'll put the tool on the wall. Okay. Right about to there. So you can see where I stopped. Now put the tool in the corner at the top, press, sweep off. And you can kind of see where it's filled in really nice. I still have a little bit, no, it's filled in really nice right here. Easy to sand. I know nobody likes sanding. Again, we're doing both sides at the same time. Great tool, been around forever. Pretty simple. I would say this tool is easy. It is a little more physical, but if you mix your joint compound properly, again, it's all consistency of joint compound. The Mud Runner Pro, or the old Mud Runner style, is a little bit easier in that I don't have to pull up and then come down. I can start at one point at the top and go all the way down. Let me show you how that's done. We can do this corner right here, and we just put it in the corner. I twist the tool, and then as we're going down the corner, you can see where it's filling in. Now, at the top, if you see where I start, I have a little spot right here. I don't need to really add any more. I just need to smooth it out. The nice thing about the Mud Runner is I can just put it in the corner, press on it, and smooth it out. Okay? If you have any edge or anything on here or here, you just clean it off with a knife, and you have to detail the top and the bottom. I want to show you just here where this is a little wet, just a little sample where you can see where this is filling in and where it left off. So I just did the final. You can see the tape coat. Again, this isn't dry, but you can see where it's filling in both sides just easily. Again, if I want to smooth this out, put the tool on the wall and just smooth it out. And we got as a sample area right here. You don't want to do this normally because it's wet, but when it's dry, you'll see this, it's actually filling in really nice for even being wet. So a great tool, easy to learn this tool as opposed to the corner applicator. It takes a little more practice with that, but this one is simple, easy, fast, holds twice as much. We'll set that tool here. We'll say one more thing, that for the mud runners and corner apps, we do have mud heads that if you're installing paper face beads on the outsides of your trims, you can apply these plastic heads on there just to apply the material. So think of it as being your hopper on the tool. So instead of pulling this tape through a hopper, sticking it up there, you would put all your material on and then just stick the dry tape on there. So that's a good system. So that's kind of our demonstration. Now let's move into the questions that you may have. And thank you so much for participating.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Yes, we do have a few questions that came in, so I'll share those with you. The first one, they are saying that they don't have a crew and perform most of my work on my own. In your opinion, should I make the switch from hand finishing to ATF tools? And then there's a second part. I can finish a project pretty fast with a banjo and my knives. How much time does it actually have a single worker? Save a single worker?
Yeah, so first of all, I definitely encourage you to incorporate the system. If you're doing it by yourself or going with a team, it's much faster. It's 3 times faster at minimum, depending on the job, certainly the ceiling height. But if you're doing this job by yourself, you can go so many boards, tape out, turn it, wipe it out. It's still faster than you putting the material on, putting the tape on, wiping it. You still got to wipe it. You're just installing it 3 times faster. You still have to wipe it out. But after that, that's when the speed really kicks in. When you're doing your corners, or you're doing your nail spotting, or you're doing your boxes, you're going to have a lot more speed with that, okay? So banjo, the banjo's a little bit faster than doing it by hand, but again, you're limited by height. So banjo guy has to reach up. It's very physical to run a banjo. I respect the guys who run the banjo. Yeah, pull it out, slap the tape on. You probably get maybe 25 feet, linear feet per banjo. With the bazooka or automatic tape, you can go 80 feet. So you're filling that banjo quite a bit more. You're manually pulling it out. With the bazooka, look, it's a tube with wheels on it. You roll it along the wall. You have a special control tube or cutter when you cut it. And when you cut it to length, you can reach ceilings, tops of walls that you can't reach. So, you know, it's still at least twice as fast, maybe 3 times depending on the job compared to a banjo.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, as you were speaking, we had a couple follow-ups to that. One is asking, between the push corner finisher and the auto corner finish applicator, which do you recommend overall?
Yes, I'm a 44-year guy in the trade. I recommend the mud runner every day. I wish I would have had this tool back in the day. It's so easy. The new Mud Runner Pro, you can kind of twist it slow, medium, or fast as far as speed. It's got a little better strut in it than our original model, so it's got a little more speed. So it's not 4-cylinder, it's a V8. So it runs really fast if you want. If you're running a long run of it, you want to fill in quite a bit. If you're doing outside quarter mud on beats. But every day, all night, all day, I'll pick the Mud Runner Pro quarter off kit.
Okay, one more follow-up to the first part of the very first question was, what about butt joints?
Sure. Yeah, butt joints. So butt joints are the untapered part of the board. So the long runs are recessed. You have 5/8 half-inch board. The untapered parts are butted together, and they're typically they're not recessed. Okay, so you have to treat them differently than a regular joint. I know guys know this, but so if we're doing a butt joint with a box, for example, if I can step over here, let's just say this butt joint, I would run my boxes on both sides of the tape, okay, to build out that plane. So we're trying to hide this peak. Okay, so we got to build out both sides. Once it's built out, so it's built out on both sides, we can run another box down the middle. Some people will pull it by hand just for speed or time, but again, larger job, split the butt joints. First thing you would do if you're taping, after you're taping, before you box, is to split the seams around the whole job, and then come back, run the joints, the recessed joints, and then come down your middle. That's where you treat your butt joints with tools. I like using mechanical tools on butt joints because, again, it's a lot less sanding. But I'm going to be honest, there are some joints that are, framing could be bad. You may have to put a knife on the low side. It might be more on one side than the other. But for the most part, it's more often than not that you can do all of your butt joints with boxes.
Perfect. We also have an attendee who is sharing that they have a few of the products themselves. And what is the trick to cleaning all these tools?
Great. Yeah, great question. So cleaning the tools, the question is about cleaning tools, is important. Okay, I get a lot of calls. This thing doesn't work, and it's just a little bit of joint compound in it. The answer is, best thing you can use is pressured water. I know at Tape Tech we have a portable wash station. It's very affordable. It recycles a 5-gallon bucket of water. You can rinse your tools off and put them away, oil them up. That's another thing. Part of maintenance is to use an oil that we have, like Tape Tech or an Ames oil. We don't recommend WD-40. WD-40 loosens all the screws on things. Great product, but for our tools, you don't want to loosen all the screws. Where our product is made more for lubrication, keeping the joint up from drying. But pressured water, short of pressured water, if you don't have pressured water, at least wrap it up in plastic, keep it in water. As you can see here, what I've done, you can see this, I've just kept it into a bucket of water. These tools here, so they don't dry out. Again, just habit, but again, it's something that you'll do during the day. You have a good brush, you're going to brush these things off. If you have a portable wash station, go back and rinse them off as you go, but keeping them clean is important, and lubricated.
Thank you. What are some of the biggest challenges my team and I will face by making the switch